Welcome to the Living Consciously TV show. I'm your host and moderator, Coach Steve Toth, and our theme today is health, specifically the health epidemic in America. Let me introduce you to our guest panel. We have a health guest panel headed up by James McPartland, and James is the first gentleman in the Skype bubble there. James McPartland is our newest cast member. He is an expert in health and wellness, and he's joining us from Los Angeles. Welcome to the show.
Steve, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. And we have also next to James, Ninon DeVer-DeRosa. She is our self-growth expert. However, health happens to be her second passion, and she's joining us from Los Angeles as well. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve. It's fabulous to be with all of you, and it's great to have James on board. It's just wonderful to see a man's face.
Yes, absolutely.
Well,
besides mine.
Oh, yes. I can't even see yours. Yours is still.
Yeah. And next to Ninon is Jane Eileen Cohn. She's our spirituality expert, and also her second passion is health. And she's joining us from the beautiful city of San Diego. Welcome to the show, Jane.
Thank you, Steve. I'm glad to be here.
And I'm sure you have noticed, all of our viewers have noticed that all of our cast members are from the West Coast because we're having a huge hurricane on the on the East Coast. So there is a reason behind everything, right?
Absolutely.
Seems that way. Seems that way, yes.
So here's how the show will go. So the first segment, we'll be talking about what is the Living Consciously show, like really, from a perspective of our cast members. And then also, we're going to talk a little bit about balance, what is balance, and the 7 areas of our life balance, which is the foundation of our show. And in the second segment, we'll be talking about what are the issues and problems with health and wellness in this beautiful country of called America. And in third segment, we're going to be talking about what are the potential solutions to what we are discussing in the second segment. So let's begin with what is the Living Consciously TV show to you? What does it represent to you, James?
Well, Steve, it's a great question. I've had the chance to get to know you and some of the folks here on the panel tonight about over the last year. And one of the things you helped bring to my attention, something I think I was aware of, was the importance of truth and understanding who I am as an individual, living my authenticity, and most importantly, living my God-given potential. To be part of this program and to have been associated with you allows me to reinforce that being conscious allows me to face the truth, live my truth, speak the truth, and do everything I can to encourage that in others. Life is pretty short. I believe we all have to be who we are destined to be. Seems everybody else is already taken. So you're helping me to be who I am destined to be. That's living consciously to me.
Awesome. Thank you, James. What about you, Ninon?
Well, as I living, we've been doing these shows for a few weeks now, and you've brought so much to my everyday life of how you conduct it and how you even answer a phone, of the tone of your voice, and I think you've brought to me and also to myself, I've brought what you've sort of brought out in me is being conscious of how to approach people and how to be with people and how you can actually change their lives by the tone of your voice, your actions, and how you feel. So I'm very much aware of who I am. The same as James. It's you find out who you are and what you are, and then what you give out. Then, of course, James and I were out there, obviously in the media a lot. So we have to be very much aware of what we say and how we say it. So I think this has even brought me even closer to actually giving that out and knowing who I am and how people can perceive me. So to me, it's just it's amazing.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nina. And what about you, Jane?
Well, one way to describe the work that I do is participating in the leading edge of the human evolutionary process. That's just sort of what I'm here to do. It's a very huge passion for me. And it seems to me that the potential of this show is to have other people who are functioning on that level, who are also participating in the human evolutionary process. And when there's more than one people interacting in a co-creative process, there's much more potential than just what one person's perspective connecting to the whole, you could say. When you have more than one who are actually on that cutting edge, the potential is huge. So that's what I'm shooting for.
Awesome. Thank you, Jane. And for me, it is really a dream come true. And what I'm attempting to do with all of this is to provide a contrast, because a contrast is necessary in the media today, and that's just how I feel. That's my truth. Because what we get to see and experience on most of the time on commercial media is, confusion and just things that are really not what this show is about. So I don't want to dwell into those negatives, but I think all of you know what I'm talking about. The media is, as soon as you turn it on, it's broadcasting negativity and negative news, and that is something that I would like to transform in the world, so that we at least get a balance. We at least get 50% good news and 50% bad news in the world, and that would transform, I think, the entire planet. So it's a big order, but I'm up for it, and I'm sure all of you are up for it. And with that, let's just jump into, and I wanted to start with the statistics, and the statistics is coming from the National Center on Addiction and Substance Abuse, and here it goes. 9 of 10 American addicts started smoking, drinking, or using drugs before the age of 18. And 1 in 4 of those people become addicted to some sort of drug that's out there. So what's up with this statistic? And I'd like to have James respond to this first, and then we'll hear from the rest of the team.
So Steve, in capturing your perspective that the intention of this broadcast is to bring positive news, one reminder I constantly need for myself is to be childlike and remember the simplicity of life. So you'll notice I'm in my personal bedroom.
Yes, and I love the baby bed. Yes.
Every once in a while, when I try to act too big or provide negative news, I go back to that little room right here in that bed, and it reminds me of who I'm supposed to be. So, so you talk about the addictions and the statistics, and that's sad news, but I think, like anybody, and this is the case that I had when I was growing up, is we model the big people in our lives. So if we're taking it on, we're probably adapting and adopting behaviors we see of those above us. You talk about the negative news implication. Most of the things that we're going to get to it that contribute to the statistics of the, let's call it the malaise of health or obesity or cardiovascular disease, is our programming. It's how we take in that information and how we respond to it and what we seek to do to alleviate pain or to medicate ourselves. So it's obvious that there's a lot of pain on the planet, and I think shows like yours and the team you have here on the broadcast can do things to help alleviate some of that pain or present different choices for people as to how to, let's say, get out of the pain and into some more pleasurable aspects of life.
Yes, I agree. And as I have said this before, we're not popular yet, but I feel that we will be. And all we need to do is capture 1%, to have a movement. I don't know where I heard this before, but I heard it somewhere that to start a movement, all you need is 1% of the population. So all we need to do is capture, 36 million people? into the United States, and we'll have a consciousness movement. Not that that already doesn't exist, it does, but I think it needs to get to that 1% so that it will begin to really unfold on the planet, and we can start it right here in America. So, do you think Ninon, and this has a lot to do with the youth, and you involved with the youth quite a bit. Do you think is this statistics that I just shared? Is it because our kids are copying us and copying Hollywood? Are they just learning it all from us?
Well, I would probably say they were copying Hollywood, but I think we're going to find this all over America. So it wouldn't just be Hollywood where these kids are getting drugs and where they're getting drink and alcohol and everything else. But I hate to say it, but I think it's the parents or it's us supplying it to them. They cannot buy alcohol under 18. And they obviously cannot get drugs. And the only way they get drugs is through somebody older. And unfortunately, we're going to dive all the way down into the money side of it, because, that's where it actually gravitates to making money to spend and getting bigger cars and bigger this. And unfortunately, we're using the younger generation for this. And the younger generation, we are just teaching them. We're helping them and teaching them. So if we bring in all these bad habits to them, as well as doing these things at home, having the older generation having their parties, or their parents having parties at home with all the alcohol and everything, and then turning around and say to the child, you can't have it. We're not really giving them, we're not conscious of giving them a good example. And so our example is sort of going through the cracks. The kids think they can do it. They're making money on it. The kids are not being given this money. The kids are stealing the money from somewhere. When a kid has a lot of money, my question always was, where did they get that money from? They're too young to have that money. And why aren't other people noticing this? Why don't families notice it? So I think what you're doing, Steve, and you've already started, you said that the movement starts by 1%. A movement can start with just 2 people. And that's what you did. You started it with 2 people and you evolved it with your team. And now from there, you made all these different steps. And now you've got it on the internet. So you have actually made a most incredible movement of not knocking anybody, but letting people understand that what you put out there is what you get. And if we're going to give these kids all this alcohol, we're going to allow them to have this with the pills they get out of the medicine cabinet, with the money they steal on all the drugs, we are actually doing it to our kids. So I think with your program and what we're doing, I think it's going to make them more aware, hopefully, that 1%, hopefully more aware that they really are in charge of their children and to help them understand that this is not good for them. When you tell me 1 in 4 ends up abusing, drugs for the rest of their lives, that's pretty sad. That's very sad.
Yeah.
So that's my small input.
Thank you, Ninon. Jane, let's talk a little bit about the big picture. So, do you feel that people, in general, have an understanding, or and let me just put it this way. I know that everybody's eyes right now are on the economy, and everybody's thinking about the economy, and everybody's feeling the economy. But I actually feel that the health epidemic is a much bigger issue than the economy, because it's about our lives, and it's about our ability to live a healthy and joyful and spiritual life. Now, how do you feel, Jane, in terms of how most people interpret this health issue? Because it's everywhere. I see it everywhere. And it almost seems to me that people are, it's like the big elephant. The big elephant is the health epidemic, and most people are pretending that it doesn't really exist.
There's probably a large connection between the economy and the health issue. And I agree with you that most people are not really seeing the depth of this problem. To me, it's a part of a larger frame of reference in that people in general tend to go towards what isn't good for them as a substitute for what really matters to them. So when a person makes what I call a limiting decision, which are usually made before the age of 6 or 7 years old. It's what some people call unhealed issues, or whatever it is that people go to therapy for. You know? Decisions such as I'm bad, I'm not lovable, there's not enough, people can't be trusted. Those kinds of things are unconscious decisions locked in at a very deep level, and a conscious person works on working through those issues throughout their life for personal transformation. Now, the problem is that when a person makes a limiting decision such as I'm not lovable, I'm not safe, I'm a failure, etc., they've closed the channels for actually receiving love, success, safety, and so on. And what they do is they go for substitutes that give them the sense of having it but don't really have it. And that's what addictions have to do with. So people drink alcohol in order to feel, let's say, powerful, or in order to feel loved. They eat comfort foods, it's not good for them, to satisfy something that they've closed the channel for. So I see the whole world, the idea of progress in the world is based on these substitute desires, or symbolic substitutes, to an amazingly huge, large degree. And people don't seem to realize that the way forward isn't to get more and more of these substitutes, which never satisfy you, as no addiction ever does. You always have to get more. But the solution is to get to the underlying unhealed problem, which is unconscious decision blocking the real flow of the real stuff that really matters to you. So that's the way forward, and the whole economic situation is based on the same thing, the same problem.
Okay, thanks. So, thank you, Jane. So, getting back to James. James, you've been in the health and wellness industry for a long time, and you do a lot of public speaking on this subject, including in corporations, in corporate settings. What do you think, or how do you feel about, you know, I know that you've been in the exercise industry as well. Why is none of this stuff really starting to click with people? Why are people not connecting the dots?
And Steve, for clarification, when you say connecting the dots between engaging in physical activity and or the impact of economic news?
Yeah, no, meaning that our health is so extremely important, and all we have to do, again, we're in our segment of issues and problems. So right. I see the fact that there's a Walgreens at every corner is a problem, because if I go back 30 years ago, we didn't have a Walgreens at every corner. Today we do. So what happened?
So here's a perspective on it. So getting healthy is hard because life is easy. And we have fast food nation, big gulps, as you say, a drugstore in every corner, and we can medicate ourselves easily. Big business of, let's call it big pharma or tobacco or alcohol industries drive a lot of decisions in government, and that's big business. It's hard to fight those monopolies. So I spent time for years trying to get people engaged in physical activity, trying to get them fit. What I realized was what I needed to discuss with people was a reason to get healthy. Healthy had to do with where people were, not only physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And you can take it in corporations, because that's the largest sort of capture of people in an environment. What people really want to know is that they're valued, and that they measure up, and that they make a difference. When there is stress in the economy, and maybe that hits the top level of senior executives, that stress cascades down, and people are asked to work harder, more hours for less money, and their value is compromised. People are stressed and not feeling appreciated or loved or valued. When that happens, people don't tend to think, I'd better take better care of myself. They think, what am I going to do to ease the pain or medicate myself? Where I've seen a fundamental difference, irrespective of the economy, is how people in corporations or in health clubs program themselves, or how they learn to think about personal responsibility. In this country, for a long time, we have been dependent on the government. We've been asking for it for years. Take care of us, take care of us, take care of us. That generation no longer exists. Lifetime security of Social Security or health insurance is no longer an option. We have to look at the educational system of personal responsibility, how we think, how we walk, how we talk, what we eat. Our education system, starting with children, is probably where we need to attack the beast. And people have enough statistics, Steve. You can put anything you want on a pack of cigarettes, and people who want to smoke are still going to smoke.
Yeah, it
People
doesn't matter.
are going to get behind the wheel of a car after they're drinking, even though they know better. They know that if they do certain things, it's going to kill them. So fear doesn't work. My belief is people can do anything in the world if they have a strong enough why. And if people learn to understand what's most important to them, how they can add value, how they can become personally responsible, how they can make a difference in their own personal economy by the choices and the decisions they make to better their family, to better their outcomes, to better their results, I think you can start moving the needle. It's not about big government and big business, it's about personal responsibility.
Okay, got it. Thanks, James. I have a special word for
I just have a comment
Go ahead.
about what James just said.
Go ahead.
I think what you're actually saying is enlightening people to their own real self-interest, enlightened self-interest. Is that people go towards what they think is benefits them. And I think what you're saying is to make it more conscious what really does benefit them and why.
Well, precisely. For years, and I had a business for the better part of 20 years. We were manufacturing exercise equipment. We were going in 75 different countries. And the numbers of people engaging in physical activity over the course of 25 years has stayed about the same. So it's not about beautiful facilities, it's not about access to equipment, and it's not about knowledge. It's about understanding the implications of the decisions that we all make, and it's taken it down to a granular level, because if you looked at the marketing, and talked about Ninon with Hollywood, the image that the health and wellness or fitness industry has put up there is six-pack abs and beautiful bodies. And what happens for most is they make decisions, okay, I'm going to get healthy. And because of the speed with which we look at things in the Western world, and that's now part of the Eastern world and the Asian world, is we want it now. And if we don't have it now, and if we don't see the change, we get frustrated and we look for a quick fix. But there is no such thing as a quick fix. And when we get frustrated, we go back to those things that help us medicate the pain, because we can get an immediate feedback or response from a cigarette or alcohol or pills or some destructive behavior that at least charges us temporarily. So yes, it is all about personal responsibility and personal knowledge, perhaps something that you teach, as I understand, quite well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was just interject something. This morning, I was actually at a function. I don't know if I can mention the name of it, but I will. It was Visalis, Body by Vi. I've known the owners for some time, and I went down to a function today just to appear and just to let them know I was around, because I had to come back for the show. And there was, I don't know, about 6,000 or 7,000 people there. Now, if you could see all these people, we talk about health, and you talk about, they all come up on stage and they say how much weight they've lost and how enthusiastic they look. So on the other side of this coin, people truly are, when we look out there, are trying to, I think, get themselves back in shape. I think we're trying to, I think mentally they're feeling, you can see their happy faces. They were so excited. They lost 5 pounds, they lost 10 pounds, they lost 2 pounds. And just to see that, I think it gives a hope out there that we want to put out there, that people are trying, it is possible. And going back to the economy, a family I know, that the children had actually, because the father got laid off from his job, the children had started gaining weight because they were nervous and they were upset. And when you're nervous and upset, you eat. So, there's a lot of different ways of where this is all going, this weight thing. And there's a lot of excuses. Jim, you're right. Get hold of yourself. Who are you? Take care of yourself and just do it. Lip service is cheap.
And let me interject to both of your points, ladies, because Steve Toth is a great example. Steve, to give you a, as they say in common lingo these days, give you a shout out. So you have started your own personal wellness campaign, and you are actively walking, and you're taking good care of yourself. And listen, but this is a very important point, because your stress level, the things that you're doing with your life, are no less intense. The things that the stakes for you, the risks now, are as great as they've ever been since you've tried this business.
Oh, plus they're constantly going up, actually.
But and the thing that, so
one day at a time.
And what's changed for you? How you think about it, how you see it, how you took personal responsibility, how you made the choice to find the time, because what's going on in the world is still going on. The stress in your life is still going on. But you decided you had to act. And that makes all the difference in the world. And you did.
You're right. Yeah, you're right, James. He's gone out. He even went out and bought a bicycle. So he goes cycling. He goes walking, and he eats salad. Steve.
Yes, but here's the thing. I heard Jane actually dropped a golden nugget, and it's my responsibility to pick it up. So the golden nugget that Jane dropped is that people are into their self-interest, and that's great. But I want to talk about that more because
Yeah.
what are we
It's
talking
great.
about? Are we talking about the self-interest of the false self, or are we talking about the real self?
Yeah, well, that is the issue. So
That is the issue.
the self-interest of the false or substitute self is to eat the comfort food, to take the quick fix, etc. And eventually, it spirals down. It's a self-defeating system, which is why things are falling apart in the world today, because eventually it has to. Now, the self-interest of the higher self, or the real self, is what I call enlightened self-interest. It's what actually benefits you. And if you do something that actually benefits you, it cannot harm anybody else either. So that's the way forward. And people learning to make the distinction is extremely important.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it
Very well said.
sometimes takes getting hit by a 2x4 and realizing, okay, I keep on drinking alcohol. My liver is shot now. Now what I do? I have to find something that really works rather than that.
Yes, and thank you, Jane, for clarifying that. And I wanted to get back to Ninan actually for a second, because I'm going to disagree with you for a moment. Is that okay?
I love that.
It will have to be. It will have to be, because I'm going to do
I
it.
can argue back.
So,
Only
what I'm going to
after the
disagree
show.
with, what I'm going to disagree with is hope. Okay, so hope, for me, hope doesn't work. Okay, people have been selling hope for hundreds and thousands of years, and usually the way I define hope is you can hope to win the lottery, and the chances of that happening is less than having a 747 end up on the top of your house. That's hope.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Hope is something that actually never comes. It's always I'm hoping, the next day I'm hoping, and you're absolutely right.
Right, and
Hope is
marketers
something.
and marketers have actually figured it out, what a wonderful word hope is, and people bought into it, hook, line, and sinker. But hope does not deliver results. It's a mental activity, and what's missing is people actually going out and doing something. And it's not even enough just to do something. You have to do something that's aligned with who you really are.
Well, the famous saying, live in hope, die in despair.
How do you feel about that, James? Like in your travels, and I know you're a jet setter, right?
If you call sitting in the back of the plane a jet setter, yes.
So in your world, do people, when you deliver these messages, and I know that you're probably incredible on the stage, but when you deliver these messages, do you think people inside of themselves, as they do in their self-talk, do you think they go like, okay, so what this guy is saying, is that really for my best interest? Do you think people ask that question?
Well, I think they ask a lot of questions. As a matter of fact, the conversations going on in their head is what clouds everything. So I think what I would call it is an identity crisis. And you're talking about people having authenticity and truth and understanding who they are. First and foremost, it's understanding who you are. If you looked at the first 4 letters of the word health, it's heal. And a lot of us spend an enormous amount of time and energy trying to portray an image of who we want people to believe we are. And then we spend a heck of a lot of time and energy trying to reinforce what we believe we think other people think we are, even though people aren't thinking about us at all. And so, listen, we're all guilty of it. I used to have a closet full of Superman capes and all kinds of masks I wore myself, right? Because I was catting around and had this particular image, and it became pretty tiring. And as Gene said, there's normally something that brings a person to their knees before they recognize, if I don't take care of me, nobody else will, because they've really not been taking care of me. So I think what people are asking in those environments that I speak at is it safe? Can I take responsibility for myself? What will other people think? And then one of the things I think that has been most effective in working with folks, either large groups or small, is I tell folks, if you looked at it like a series of Olympic judges, that everywhere you went, you think people are holding up scorecards of giving you numbers. Give yourself perfect 10s. Perfect 10s for effort and for process and for being true to yourself. The outcome will be the outcome, and people aren't worried about you. And so I think that the message gets through people are afraid and they're looking for affirmations from others around them. The first affirmation we have to learn is to get it from ourselves or to whoever we believe our creator is. And if we get centered and can become authentic with who we really are, the people who love us when we're not ourselves don't really love us because they don't know who we are. But when we become ourselves and learn to lead by example and change the programming, people will follow because people are looking for leaders. And what you're going to create with this program is a new leadership group, because people hear what they see. They don't hear what you say, they hear what they see. So if you take those specific examples of small activities to drive new behaviors, you can get more than that 1%, Steve Toth.
Awesome. I can't wait. All right, I got these 3 words. I have one for each one of you. First word I'd like to give, and just please respond to whatever comes to you based on the word. And then that will finish up our second segment, and we'll go into our third. So first word, I'm going to use lack of sleep, and it's for Jane. What comes to you?
Tired. I don't know. I don't know what you're looking for.
We're looking for
Starving.
We're looking for the problems and issues with health is the theme of the show. So,
Yeah.
From the perspective of lack of sleep, how do you see that? What comes to you in terms of lack of sleep? What does that word represent to you?
Stress.
Why are people having lack of sleep? What are they doing?
Is that a general problem for people?
Yeah.
At the moment, yes, very much so.
Oh, okay. So that has to do with lack of a sense of stability in the world, which certainly.
So let's start with you, Jane. Let's start with you. How many hours of sleep do you get a day?
I sort of go in and out of sleeping, and so it's actually sleeping. I guess you know. Well, you do know. So that's why you're picking on me.
I'm not picking on you.
Yeah, I have a great deal of difficulty sleeping.
Okay.
Right. So I have to be in bed quite a lot in order to get an adequate number of hours of sleep. So I couldn't tell you how many hours of sleep I actually get. It sort of depends upon the depth of the sleep. So it varies.
Okay. Well, let me put it this way. How many hours on an average per day do you spend in your bed horizontally with your eyes closed?
11 hours.
11?
Yeah, so it's
Okay, fantastic.
my
Wow.
time.
Yeah, do you know that the average in America is less than 5?
Well, if I was actually sleeping for 5 hours, that would probably be adequate.
Okay. Okay, great. Next one, obesity for Ninon.
Obesity, wow. What is it? Well, I just saw it today. I think it's a lack of self-confidence within yourself, that you've got to continuously eating, forgetting that you're going to be gaining weight, but trying to overcome what you're going through. And I think that's what we have a problem in this world at the moment. People are just eating to get away from or wanting to face their problems. I'm not overweight, and fortunately, touch wood, I've never been overweight, but I've also been very conscious of what I eat and my weight, very conscious, because I think it has a lot to do with your confidence going out there. So with all these people that are overweight, it's a tragedy. And I think that their self-esteem is sort of, they slowly give up, and then the weight goes on and on and on. And so I've got a woman right now, I'm trying to help. She weighs 400 pounds, and I'm trying to help her, and it's tough.
Okay, got it. So Ninon, if I said the number of pounds that someone is overweight it equals their love, the lack of love for themselves. Would that be true?
Absolutely, yeah. Their self-confidence within themselves, they give up. They don't feel they're good enough for the world, whether it's because they are not as pretty as the next one, or because they're not as tall, or because whatever the situation is, they feel inadequate in this world, and so they're trying to hide. So they hide being fat, and then they don't care. They just don't care.
Okay.
But inside, they do care.
Great. Thank you, Ninon. James, I got the best for you. Stress.
Well, I want to know if we can go to Jane's house and have a sleepover.
Sure, why not?
We do this show, have a slumber party. And the answer to the question is stress?
Yeah. The word is
Excellent.
stress.
Well, so here's what comes to mind for me. Certain aspects of stress are very healthy and very positive. You know, in the game of life, to do the things that we are capable or God-given, gifted to do, we need to be stressed. The way you grow a muscle is to stress it. And so there are certain elements of stress that are very good for us. Now, of course, there are other elements of stress that are disempowering. So you know, we often be overcome by events of stress, and it has a lot to do with one of the things you brought up with was rest. When people are tired, you can look at all the studies and the statistics of the incidence of increased likelihood of cancer and disease and obesity, and you can't make a good decision when you're tired. So stress compounds the issue when you're fatigued. So I see stress as a way of a measurement of how you interpret your world. And it can either overrun you and you can seek to medicate, or you can find a way to give things a different meaning and take the personal responsibility we spoke of. Stress will never go away. And you know, you talked about how things are in this economy. Go back to the Depression, right? That was stress. But the interesting thing about how people were in those times, people were moving, right? The bodies were moving. You don't see a lot of obese photographs of back in the Depression. You see now the fact that we've had to change the size of the rides at Disneyland to deal with people. It's easy to medicate yourself, and big food business is big business to help people overcome stress. It's the wrong message. You're helping to change the meaning of what stress can be.
Right, right. Thank you. All right, so we're ready to jump into our third segment, which is the solutions, and maybe sharing certain modalities with our viewers that can help with all the issues and the problems of health. But before we kick this off, I'm going to share another statistics with you, and that is I'm going to list the top 15 healthiest countries in the world, and then tell me what do you think that's common in these countries? Why are they the top 15? Here they are: Iceland, Sweden, Finland, Germany, Switzerland, Australia, Denmark, Canada, Austria, the Netherlands, Israel, Czech Republic, Spain, and France.
Can you see my video?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think we missed a little bit out what you were talking about. Somebody came in and interrupted us, Steve, so I don't know what happened.
Oh, okay. I'll repeat it. So the top 15 healthiest countries in the world are Iceland, Sweden, Finland, Germany, Switzerland, Australia, Denmark, Canada, Austria, Netherlands, Israel, Czech Republic, Spain, and France.
That's all of them.
That's the whole world.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. It's only 14. Actually, America is in there. We're number 11, which I had a hard time believing.
There's something in common with what you just said, Steve. A lot of those countries are cooler countries.
Are what countries?
Weather-wise,
Weather-wise,
they're
they're
cooler.
cooler. Yeah, and a lot of them are Europeans.
Yes.
European countries. It's interesting. Okay, so let's get to our third segment, which is about, let's make some recommendations to our viewers about any of the modalities or any of the things that we have learned personally to help our viewers become more healthy. Who wants to go first?
Oh, I don't mind going first. I think we all feel very self-conscious about ourselves and what we look like, and sometimes we are very hard on ourselves, and I always feel that we shouldn't be so hard on ourselves. And one of my greatest things is look in that mirror, and I think one of the first things you've got to try to do is love yourself. You are who you are, however you are, that's it. Now, if you want to, be better, then learn more. And if you want to, and nothing's out of reach. We all come in with one breath, and we all leave with one breath. And it's what we do in between. And we all have that same opportunity. And it actually doesn't matter where you come from or who you are, but you must first love yourself. Feel something, feel value within you. And put a price on yourself, and realize who you are, and you're just as important as anybody else out there.
Okay.
Steve, I'd like to make some observations about the points, and I thought Ninan was right on. So we were creatures of our environments. So if I listen to the countries that you described, and I've spent a lot of time in different parts of the world, you look at the cultural upbringing of people and how they spend their time. and how people in family environments, to a lesser degree now than used to be, participate in family meals and the types of food that people consume. It's vegetables, it's fish, even if it's meat, and there's a lot of movement and activity and walking and riding bicycles in those, and predominantly in those environments. And in our case, we as we've all known, because we look at our children. When I was growing up, we rode bicycles and we played baseball. Now I'm really wrestling with the fact that my little kids want to play with the iPad, right? And how things are going to unfold for them in their life.
And you take your car to 7-Eleven, right?
Well, only when I'm working the night shift. But it is interesting. Is you're going to talk to people a lot about health in this program. My guess is, for the most part, we're not telling anybody anything new. We're probably just reminding people of stuff that they already know. And I would say to people, small victories, big celebration. Small victories, big celebration. If you can walk more, park your car 2 blocks away, take stairs. As in terms of consumption of food, for the most part, everybody knows if they put something in their mouth, whether it's good or not for them. We really know. But it's the small victories that can propel people to develop new habits and new lifestyles. And it's also the people we're around. Who you're around is who you become. And the statistics are out. If you spend time with people who are obese, you can become obese. The 7 degrees of separation works. Even if you have friends who are obese, you likely can become obese. So we're all creatures of our environments. It's really being conscious about who we're around, the people around, the messaging that we take in, and celebrate the small victories and enjoy life along the way. The discipline is something that's a small reservoir of what we have in life. It's very hard to maintain the discipline. We all have it, but it's the habit and learning to have enjoyment and having fun with things that makes it sustainable. When it's discipline, it's too hard, and when things are really hard, we get uncomfortable. We medicate.
And I think also when you say celebrate, we mean celebrate without food.
Oh, yeah. Well,
celebrate with something that makes you happy, something you can do together.
It could be a walk with the family. It could be a
Yes.
bicycle ride. It could be, hey, listen, I'm going to buy a new iPod. It could be my new running shoes. Right. Celebration doesn't have to.
Walk together. Yeah, going for a walk together is the fun thing, and just talk together and have fun together.
Go for a walk with Steve.
Yeah.
There you go.
So let me give my perspective on this.
Please.
So I come from a spiritual perspective, and so that would be my approach. It really has, from my perspective, it has to do with beginning to get a relationship with your inner guidance, that small, still voice, that inner urging. It's a matter of deciding to pay attention to it, to listen to what's going on inside that is urging you to do this or that, and start listening to it, because the difference is whether you are orienting your life outside of yourself to what other people think and what the values are outside yourself, which we can see leads to bad self-interest, all kinds of different things. If you orient your experience or your definition of reality from outside there, versus you start getting a internal sense that connects you to a larger reality. Now, to me, that's the big shift, that challenge that's in the world today. And I think, Steve is a really good example of this in action. So I hope you don't mind me using you as an example, because I think it's very inspiring.
No, I don't mind. I actually look pretty darn good. I'm just looking at myself on the screen. I'm going like, wow.
I want to meet that guy.
I'll go out with him anytime.
At some point, Steve got a wake-up call, and I've certainly gotten my own wake-up calls and gone through it, but he's just a sort of very clear example where he could see that the behaviors that he was doing was very, very self-destructive, and he made some internal, really major decisions. He started listening to that inner voice inside himself and started following a path that was guided internally, and it got stronger and stronger. And so I can, just in the short time I've known him, I've seen him change his course and make different decisions based on what that inner guidance is telling him, and I've seen him get healthier and healthier and healthier. So I think that's a really good example. I mean, if you don't start by contacting that internal source, there's really no guidance for moving yourself forward towards health.
So what you're really saying, Jane, that we all have this inner intelligence. All we need to do is learn how to access it, right?
Right, and to be directing your attention in that direction to realize, so that here again it is the issue of self-interest. At some point, a person can hopefully get to the point where they realize that it is in their best self-interest to start listening to that part of themselves, that will actually lead them towards what benefits them versus just trying to medicate themselves.
Okay. Now let me share with you a recent challenge that I've had, and which is we opened an office in Lodo in Denver about a month ago, and I've noticed that since and I've got to preface this with the fact that I got out of the corporate America world 7-8 years ago, and I haven't been commuting to an office. I've been working out of my house. And since I opened this office in Lodo, Denver, I noticed that in a way, I've noticed that I'm back into the rat race because I'm getting up in the morning. I do my chores that I do. I usually get some work done early in the morning because my mind is really clear and I can get stuff done pretty quickly. And then I'm doing the thing with jumping into the car, getting on the freeway, getting on the highway, doing all the stuff that I remember I used to do, which is dealing with traffic, being up against people that are rude, and giving you the finger. If I'm at a red light and
I hope you don't do that, Steve.
And all of a sudden the red light goes to green, and if I don't immediately move, like I mean within a second, you know, I'll hear the horn and behind me, and you know, all the other things that are going with this rat race that I'm referring to. And I also noticed that I am not biking as much as I used to because I simply don't have that time now because I've got to get ready faster and I got to deal with the commute and blah blah blah. So what do you have to say to me in terms of what I'm describing to you?
I think I'm losing it. Oh, go ahead.
I would say that you're probably falling into a pattern that there's some, well, I'd term in terms of limiting decisions. The frame of reference that I come from is that life is meant to work. So if it's not working, it's not the nature of reality, and that's really important to understand even if you don't immediately find a solution, because otherwise you're looking in the wrong direction. So there's some way that you're approaching it, there's some door that you've got closed that you don't see that would enable you to change that in a way that actually benefits you. So if you at least look in that direction, that there's some pattern that you're functioning out of, that you're locked in place, you have more chance of finding a solution.
I think I'm making choices too, Steve. We can all make choices of what we want to do, and you do get up early and you do your work. So unless you get that little exercise in before, because I know you were cycling before, and I think sometimes you're taking over, you think that's more of a priority to go to the office and be there rather than take your bike ride that's going to make you feel really good and really fit. So I think I would advise everybody, our audience and everybody, try to get that time in to do that exercise, and it's going to make you feel great all day because you're getting yourself back into a pattern. And I listen to you saying, you know, if you don't move away from that green light, they're going to be after you. So you've got this fear of, if you don't hurry up, you're going back into that corporate fear world of being there on time, doing what you need to do, rather than clearing yourself at the beginning of the day, or whenever it's convenient for you, but getting that exercise in your mind and clearing your mind and just freeing your mind up completely. And you seem to be gravitating away from that and going back into it slowly. You are getting back into your old world that you wanted to get out of.
Well, maybe it has to do with feeling responsible for other people in some way, because the more people that you're working with, the more people, the more responsibilities that you're taking on. And I understand that you've got
absolutely right.
Very complex thing going on for you where you're responsible for 20 different things. And if you're feeling stressed in relation to other people's expectations, it's difficult to set realistic and objective priorities.
Yeah, you're right, absolutely right, yeah.
And Steve, if I could give you some perspective, two things. One is I don't think you should drive to work in your pajamas. That's probably got everybody a little bit agitated.
I don't have.
I heard that too, James. Yeah.
The cool thing is
I have
that
a photograph of him
that
in
I
that.
sleep in my birthday suit.
That's what I'm talking about.
You're driving naked, huh?
Okay, so
And
that's what's
and
been
he's-
happening in terms of
and
the
the guy-
horns. Okay,
And
got
a,
it.
and a guy with a motorcycle and a sidecar, the way you're dressed is bound to cause a problem. So if you get that out of the way, I think some of the points have been well touched on. So I suspect what's coming to you is muscle memory. The stuff that you fought to get away from now comes cascading back to your mind of what it was like, and those old disempowering beliefs are coming to test you, as you might say, the dragons. As it comes to exercise or maintaining your physical health and vitality, this is a test of your commitment. If you really believe it's the most important thing for you, you will find the time. You will have appointments with people where you go for a walk together, you go ride bikes together. I used to keep exercise bikes in my office because I knew if I didn't do that, I wouldn't get it in. And people used to dread booking meetings with me because it would be sweating in my office, but I knew I would get it in. Right? And some of the meetings I'd have is, look, we don't need to sit in a room. Let's go walk around the block and do it. You can innovate and find ways to do it, and anybody
Fantastic.
you can partner with to do it will also be all the better for it, and they'll talk about you. Yeah, if you go to Toth's office, let me tell you something. He's going to make you walk around the block. Make sure you know that. Keep the subject short, or we'll never get home.
He's walking
They
his
might
talk.
like it too. Yeah, I'm
He's walking his talk. But Steve, I would say, I mean, you're more and more connected to your inner guidance, and so this is a time when you really need to plug into it in relation to that. So where there's a challenge, that's when you really start needing to ask and listen to it, because you're plugged into it if you want to.
Yes.
You're getting right back into where you were before, so you've got to kind of, get back and get that exercise because it's important to you. Makes you feel good.
Yeah, and I guess I could be a little bit more specific. So for me, it shows up like, okay, so I pulled myself out of the circle, and I've been looking for the last 8 years. I've been looking into the circle, and now, whenever I wanted to, and now I went back into the circle. So I'm no longer outside of it looking in. I'm in it. And now the challenge is, and I think, you said it. Somebody said it right. I don't know who said it. One of you said it. That maybe it's Jane said it. That maybe what it is that the challenge for me now is to make it work even with all the noise coming at me.
Yes.
Right?
To shift the paradigm, shift the paradigm in how you approach success. You're now getting back into the potential for success. And you have connected to the idea of success in the world with following a certain kind of pattern, as if that is what creates success. It's not. It's an old structure of things. So it's now time for you to develop a new structure for success, doing it in a different way.
I think this is a great message to our audience out there, and we're giving Stephen as an example of what so many people fall into, even being out of work for 2 or 3 months, and they've been doing other things, and then they get back into work, getting a job, and getting back into that pattern of not exercising and not being healthy. And I think here's a great example for our audience to understand that if you're healthy and you're feeling good, and you make time to get that exercise, or whatever makes you feel good, you make time for that and do it, because I think it's a very, very important. Your whole day will change.
So how you do it, Nina, besides not eating?
Well, we touched on a lot of subjects. We talked about sleeping. We talked about eating. No, I do eat, but I eat healthily. But I don't eat all the time. I'm a terrible. I don't have breakfast. I don't start eating till 12 o'clock in the daytime ever. But I do have lots of cups of tea. But I think it's also mind over matter. And I think sleep. I sleep. I don't ever go to sleep before 1:30, and I probably wake up probably about 7:30. So. But that's enough sleep. But I truly have to say, and this is really maybe bragging, but when I sleep, I seem to sleep totally soundly. So I guess not too much is bothering me, or I've taken it all out of me. But try to go to sleep in a relaxed way where you're not going to let all these things come into you and it's going to disturb your sleep at night. The 6 or 5 or how many hours you have of sleep are very, very important. I think it's mind over matter a lot. We put things into our heads that we really don't need to worry about.
All right, great, Nina. Thank you. Actually,
I'd like to make a Oh,
we gotta show the
anybody
close.
comment?
We gotta close the show out. We're actually
Okay.
up against it here. So that's actually all the time we have for today. So I want to thank you very much, everybody, our viewers, as well as our cast, our technical producer, John, and anybody else that's working in the booth there that sometimes I can't see because it's dark. So thank you very much. And also don't forget to go to www.livingconsciously.tv and vote and also comment on our shows. The more you vote, the more our shows are played on channel 56, 57, and channel 219. And also don't forget that you can, again, go to our site at www.livingconsciously.tv and become a free member and actually interact with all of our cast members behind the scenes. So until next week, have a wonderful week, and I certainly enjoyed being with all of you today. That's all.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Steve.
you.
Thank you, Steve.